Using quotations in essays without making a splash. Quotations are important elements of an academic paper. With a quotation, you can provide evidence of what you are claiming in your paper. This video will explain how to use quotations correctly. What's a quotation anyway? A direct quotation is as little as a part of a line, such as the central character can hardly control her enthusiasm at the prospect of, quote, tearing into the house like a tornado on steroids, end quote, to as long as a significant passage, taken in its original form from the work you are using, whether it is the primary source, such as the story or the essay you're studying, or the secondary source, such as someone else's comments on that story or essay. Why would we use one? There are three primary reasons why we would use a quotation. First, to support your argument or a particular point you're making. To challenge someone else's argument, for example, Critic Y's view of Lydia as a character who is a victim of fate seems hard to reconcile when we reflect on these lines spoken by the character herself. You can also use a quotation to acknowledge to your reader that the words you are using are not your own. Remember, plagiarism can be painful. So, use quotations to support your point, to challenge someone else's, and to avoid plagiarism. How not to use quotations. Imagine that you have to put a 5-kilo rock into a gently moving river. You could stand at the river's edge and drop it into the water, but that would cause a splash. Similarly, when you drop a quotation into your essay, that causes a splash too, and your reader doesn't want to get wet. Here's how not to do it. The central character is mean and proud of it. I eat little kids for breakfast. Furthermore, he shows no sign of ever becoming a better person. Splash! This is the better way. It's better to ease the rock into the river and let it gently sink below the surface, like this. The character is mean and proud of it. I eat little kids for breakfast, he boasts. Furthermore, there are no signs that he will ever change for the better. When integrating quotations into your essay, it's good to go with the flow. Punctuation pointers. How do you do it right? Punctuation plays a part. To use quotations effectively, you'll likely need commas, colons, square brackets, and ellipsis points. However, if the quotation is not a complete sentence, no punctuation, except quotation marks, is required. For example, the central character can hardly control her enthusiasm at the prospect of tearing into the house like a tornado on steroids. No marks for this one. Use a comma to introduce your quotation when it is from 1 to 4 sentences long, even if they're short sentences. As Carter says to the judge, comma, I'm sorry I did it. If I could go backward in time, I'd sure do things differently. That's the truth. 5 lines or more, use the colon. If you're quoting 5 or more lines from the text, use a colon after a lead-in, then indent and single-space those lines. You may also use a colon to create a balanced single-sentence colon single-sentence quotation. Here's an example. The following line shows just how badly Sue wanted to be accepted, colon. I'd have shaved my head if I thought that would have gotten me even a sideways glance from the cool kids. Remember about going with the flow? Sometimes, in order to make a line flow smoothly, you need to make some changes or to leave some things out. That's when we use square brackets and ellipses. Put changes in brackets. The original line in the text says, Paul elbowed him in the head and didn't think twice as he skated away. But the reader doesn't know the other character's, the him's, name, so we have to add it in. The quote becomes, Paul elbowed, square bracket, Tony, square bracket, in the head and didn't think twice. To create flow, the complete sentence might read, the author shows us how Paul is brutally transformed by the violence of the game. Paul elbowed Tony in the head and didn't think twice as he skated away. We don't need every word. You're not getting paid by the word. In fact, you've probably got a word limit. You can leave out words or phrases that are not critical to the point you want your quotation to support. However, you show that you've left something out by using ellipsis marks. For example, the author shows us how Paul is brutally transformed by the violence of the game. Paul elbowed Tony in the head and didn't think twice as he skated away. Becomes, the author showed us how Paul is brutally transformed by the violence of the game. Paul elbowed Tony, ellipsis, and didn't think twice, ellipsis. The quotation sandwich. Some teachers use a sandwich model to describe how we should structure quotations. First, an introduction in your own words. Then the quotation to support the point. And finally, a conclusion in your own words to comment on the point. Ready to eat? The author shows us how Paul is brutally transformed by the violence of the game. That's our introduction. Paul elbowed Tony in the head and didn't think twice as he skated away. This is the quotation. There is a clear contrast between the Paul we see off the ice and the Paul we see on it. And that was the conclusion. Author tags and signal phrases. Proper punctuation helps to create the smooth integration of quotations into the flow of your essay, and so do tags and signal phrases. Remember this dropped quotation? The central character is mean and proud of it. I eat little kids for breakfast. Furthermore, he shows no signs of ever becoming a better person. Now look at how we integrated it so that it no longer creates a splash. The character is mean and proud of it. I eat little kids for breakfast, he boasts. Furthermore, there are no signs that he will ever change for the better. Tags and signal phrases that identify the author, the character, or the commentator you're quoting in your secondary source help the reader make the connection between the quotation and its source. Here are some examples. Starkman argues that a point without proof is a weak point at best. How should we judge the antagonist when she makes this claim? The devil made me do it. Is it just her avoiding responsibility for her actions yet again? Verbs that work. Here are some verbs that you might use in your transition to the direct quotation. The verbs are in the present tense, since that is the form you use to write about literature. Argues, believes, claims, contends, declares, insists, observes, responds, states, suggests. Look for verbs that communicate clearly and strongly. Some final thoughts? You want to use quotations to support the points you are making in your essay. However, you want your paper to flow, so don't disturb the flow with a quotation that does not integrate smoothly into the sentence and the passage that you're writing. Pay attention to punctuation. It will help you set up your quotations in a way that will keep things flowing smoothly. Speaker tags, transition words and phrases, and strong active verbs keep your reader's attention on the page and on your thesis. So, know what you want to say, use quotations to support what you say, make it easy for your reader to move through your paper. Take some pleasure when you're finished in having done a difficult job as well as you can. Thanks for watching.